It's the best of historical fiction, horror, science fiction, fantasy, all wrapped into one neat, lovely little package. What is this book about? Fucking brothers. Boring as fuck, lame as fuck, and I don't like it. Ugh, that sounds like the coolest book club ever. And it's a serve, but this book fucking sucks. Don't read it. Hi, I'm Jules. Welcome back to the Book Circus, and today it's time for a January wrap-up, February TBR, you know, just updating you on what I'm reading this year. So first I'm going to start off with all of the books that I read in the month of January. January for me is one of the few months of the year that I don't have like a theme for what I'm reading the month, so it's the only one of the only few months of the year that I actually get to read like whatever the hell I want. My main goal this year was to kind of try and diversify my reading taste. I do read a lot of genres, but my top like consistent genres are historical fiction and horror thriller. So I wanted to kind of branch out from there. I have been reading more sci-fi over the past few years, but I really want to dip my toes into fantasy this year. I've never read like a fantasy series before. I got into fantasy a little bit last year with like The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, but I'm really trying to expand my horizons, especially in the fantasy genre a little more. So this first month of January was really just me pushing those boundaries, reading things that I do not normally read. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first book that I read in January, pretend that it's here because I actually literally just yesterday loaned it to my mother. But if it tells you anything, my mom has not read a book since middle school, or since I was in middle school. So if she was interested in this one, you're probably should be interested in it. But just imagine that it's here, right here, and it was The Extra by Annie Neugebauer. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. This is just a short little novella. It's a horror novella, so I did not start off pushing the boundaries, let's be honest. We follow this nature guide. His name is Matt. He's a cool guy, and he's taking this group of people into the wilderness to go camping for a few days. There's 10 people. While they're kind of making their way to their campsite, something weird happens, and then randomly there's an 11th person, but everybody in the group, including the 2 other tour guides, has very vivid memories of this new person, and so they can't figure out who the extra person is. They have no idea. It's pretty freaky. I won't say it's like super graphic, over-the-top horror, so if you're not into that, this is definitely an easy one. It is very much just this slow building atmospheric horror that makes you feel this like anxiety. And you also can't really trust the main character because the main character has no idea what's going on as well. So you can't trust their point of view or their memory because they can't. I gave it 4 stars, mostly because the ending was left open-ended. Sure, that kind of like elevated like the theming of the book, but for me as the reader, it also just PMO'd. So 4 stars, was a really good read. I literally read it in one sitting. It's a very short novella, so definitely recommend that one. The second book I read this month, also not here because I borrowed it from the library, but it was Funny Story by Emily Henry. Again, my goal this year was to push those boundaries, read things I don't normally read. I have not read a romance since, well, I reread a few in like the past couple of years, but I have not read a contemporary romance for adults ever. And so this was my first foray into that. I've heard a lot about Emily Henry. This was her highest rated book. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I might be a romance reader now, honestly. I will say I'm not interested in anything with like more spice than what was in that. I didn't even really love. Like, I'm not a Spice fan, but it doesn't bother me. I'll read it. I'm not looking for more than that. That was really good for me. I loved the characters. They felt very relatable, and it felt like there was more going on than just the romance of it all. Would recommend it if you haven't read an Emily Henry, but who on Book Talk, BookTube, Bookspace has not? Except for me. But now I have, so yay! The third book that I read this month is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This is actually my partner and I's buddy read, so I technically have not finished it. We're only this much through. I think it's like 20% of the way through. But I'm really liking it. We kind of just whenever we feel like it, lay down together and read a few chapters out loud to each other. Like, we take turns reading them out loud. It's a really fun time. It's cute. Again, I don't really read a lot of contemporary fiction in general, so this is a bit different for me, but I'm really liking it. We are following a janitor who works at an aquarium, and she is forming a relationship with a very, very smart octopus. And also there's randomly a few other POVs in there. I hate Cameron, who is the other POV in this book. He pisses me off every time one of his chapters comes up. He's just so annoying and like does nothing for himself and blames everything on everyone else. I hate him so much. But our main character, I love her, Tova. She's really cool, and our octopus is fucking awesome. So would recommend this, although I haven't finished it. We're gonna keep reading it until we finish it. The next book that I read also isn't here because I read it as an audiobook that I borrowed from my library, but again, just imagine it's here somewhere. The next book I read was Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I have not read a John Green book since middle school when I read The Fault in Our Stars. My partner is a very big John Green, Hank Green fan, and they were listening to the audiobook of this book, and they recommended it to me, even though they still hadn't finished it, and still haven't finished it. And I was like, you know, what the heck? So I read it. It was soul-crushing to think about just the healthcare inequality and poor Henry. Originally, I was kind of turned off by the interjection of, like, the more memoir elements, but it really, like, humanized the story, I guess, beyond just spitting all these facts about, like, when TB got, like, cured or whatever, you know? Like, there's a lot of facts that are important, but it really fully connects with the memoir part of it. I gave it 4.5 stars, I think. I don't remember. Hold on. Yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars. It was good. No notes, really. Oh, God. The next book that I read, another novella. This is the next book that I read. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Short little novella. This was so painful. This book is so fucking boring. Whoever hyped this up to me has been wrong my whole life. Literally, this is a copy of the novella that I got from my 4th grade teacher. So this has been on my physical TBR since I was, 10 years old. Never read it. Now I have, and it's fucking garbage. It's so boring. The Victorian mind is sorely lacking in imagination if the ultimate evil to them is some creepy little guy who hobbles around and kills one singular person. One person! And it's not even like a brutal murder. He just like clubs him to death. Like, no disgusting weird shit happened. It's just boring as fuck, lame as fuck, and I don't like it. Sure, it was ahead of its time, but it's 2026, and I would never read another book like this unless I wanted to go into a fucking coma. It's so bad. 1.5 stars. Oh wait, but the reason that it gets 0.5 star is because there was one line that had me giggling, cracking up. There's this part where this character is trying to find Mr. Hyde, and he goes, if he's gonna be Mr. Hyde, then I shall be Mr. Seek. And it's a serve, but this book fucking sucks. Don't read it. It's so short. I fell asleep like 10 times at least trying to read this. It's not worth it. You get what it's about. The concept is cooler than the book. The concept is cooler than the book. I need a retelling. There probably is one, but I need one. Next book I read was a reread, and that was Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff. I actually read this in 2023. It's kind of one of the books that got me like back into reading. It's one of my favorites. It's still a 5 stars after reading it. If you've ever watched the show, you should read the book, but basically we are following the Turner family and friends who are living in the Jim Crow era, and they come into contact with this order of white wizards, basically this like cult of white wizards, And we just follow each of the members of this family group of friends as they experience different weird shit happening with these wizards, like, you know, changing races or traveling to outer space. It's the best of historical fiction, horror, science fiction, fantasy, all wrapped into one neat, lovely little package. Cannot recommend this enough. Still one of my all-time favorite reads, even after the reread. It holds up. In between there, I read another book that kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone. That was Intermezzo. Again, I don't have it because I borrowed it from the library. But Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Again, another author like Emily Henry that I had heard so much about. I don't typically read contemporary fiction or literary fiction, really. After reading this, I can see why. Contemporary fiction to me is just kind of dull and boring. But this book was really awesome. I gave it 4 stars because, again, there were parts that got kind of dull, and it did take me a while to get through this book. But the style is beautiful. It is a little bit of a harder style to read, but once you get into it, it's beautiful. We have multiple POVs, which I'm a multiple POV lover. Lovecraft Country is also multiple POV. I love it. I eat it up if it's done well. And this is done really well. We have 3 very distinct styles of writing that really help characterize these very strong characters. Very complex characters, very unlikable and lovable at the same time. However, Peter barely ever redeemed himself for me. I hated him 99% of the book. He's still kind of an asshole. What is this book about? Fucking brothers. That's about it. Again, contemporary fiction to me is like, nothing happens, really. But it's more of a reflection on brotherhood, family, love, relationships. And it was good. 4 stars. I liked it. Would I read more Sally Rooney? Maybe, but not anytime soon. Because, again, it's slow for me. Last book that I finished this month was the sequel to Lovecraft Country. This is The Destroyer of Worlds by Matt Ruff. 5 stars. I could not tell you which one of these I like more. This was the reason that I reread Lovecraft Country, because I, for the first time, finally got a copy of the sequel for my birthday. I love this so much. The format's a little different. The first one, we kind of have just these little short stories that piece together to make one big thing. In here, we have multiple POVs that switch off every chapter, but still just like the same crazy shit, weird shit, fucked up shit. And just the perfect, again, blend of real horror from the Jim Crow South with like this Lovecraftian, fantastical sci-fi horror that is, phenomenal. I love it so much. Another one of my goals this year was to also annotate more books. So this was the first book that I annotated. You can see I have these cute little matching tabs that match the cover. If you're annotating, you do not have to go crazy with it. Literally, I was just putting my thoughts on the page. You don't have to make like crazy observations and stuff. I was just living my life and enjoying the book and really engaging with it, and it did make it a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this, and I cannot wait to do more. I regret not doing Lovecraft Country as well, but I actually read this mostly as an audiobook this time, and I started this one as an audiobook but decided to go physical, which I don't regret. Although the audiobook is really good. The narration is really awesome. I do like it a lot. So I'm just really proud of this. I think it turned out super cool, and I'm really happy that I read this now because it was fucking awesome, and I can't recommend it enough. The last book that I read in the month of January, how many books is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be the 8th book that I'm reading in the month of January. However, I did not finish it. That's okay, but I'm reading Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. I read Babel in 2024, I want to say, and I felt conflicted because I liked the story. Again, I'm a really big fan of historical fiction, so it's like a nice historical fiction fantasy. I was just not completely sold on R.F. Kuang's writing. It felt very pretentious to me, and I'm gonna be honest, it still does, but I am enjoying the story. In this one, we're following two students who go to hell to save their professor and bring him back, and it kind of blends like all these other accounts of journeys to hell to make this like really cool lore, and the magic system is interesting, so I am enjoying it so far, but I still just like get that sense of being talked down to sometimes. And also the main character is complicated. She was kind of a bitch for most of the first half, but I'm getting into the second half now and it's getting better. I'm liking it. So Catabasis, giving R.F. Kuang another try. We'll see how it goes. So that is all the books that I read in the month of January. Again, that's 7 books finished, 8 books about to be finished in the month. So really proud of that. That's a big number for me. Normally I finish like 3, maybe 4. So big numbers for me, although a lot of those were shorter novellas, which makes sense. Before we move on though, I do want to show you guys just like 2 other random things that don't really matter. I just want to show them. But first, I made this really cool collage. One of my friends had this intention, like goal setting collage night. I didn't intention or goal set, I just made this collage about how I was feeling about the current situation in our country. I don't know if you can see the whole thing, but really proud of it. I love how the colors turned out with the red, white, and blue, and then we've got like the stars, the stripes. I'm just really proud of it. I think it turned out great. I kind of want to frame it, I don't know, but yeah, there's my 2026 vision board. Another thing that I did was I reorganized my bookshelves. I actually have 3 separate bookshelves. I'll do a tour soon probably. But I reorganized my bookshelves and gave myself a little room to have like a book annotating and journaling like little box. So yesterday I had a gift card to Target that a student had given me for Christmas, and I just went ham at Target, like literally spent all $50 of the gift card just on post-it notes, like different sizes, like the little tabs, the little ones, the big ones, the see-through ones. Like I just went ham in the post-it note aisle, basically grabbed whatever they had. And I'm really excited about that because I can do lots of cool annotating this year and just book journaling stuff. Like I also got a set of flare pens last year with Target gift cards that I got for my students. Really, they're just funding my journaling addiction at this point, but that's okay. I love them and I need to organize this, but super excited about that. Moving on from what I read in January, we're going to talk about what I'm reading in the month of February. And this is my first themed month of the year. It is Black History Month, so I'm reading Black authors, Black main characters, Black history nonfiction, whatever the case may be. Some way it needs to fit the theme. However, there are 2 exceptions that I am reading. Well, 3 if you count finishing Catabasis in the month of February. The first one, I went to my library the other day and they had this little sign that was like, book club, read this book and sign up for a museum tour. I forgot what the book is called, but I'm gonna put it on the screen. It's this book where we're following, it's a mystery book following a PhD student who finds like this undiscovered artwork or something like that, and this mystery ensues from it. But that sounds fucking awesome. Like we're gonna read the book and then we're going to the museum and somebody's gonna give us a tour where they're gonna relate the artworks to the book. That sounds cool. I was sold immediately. I don't care. I'm reading that book and I'm going on that tour. It's in 2 weeks, so I have 2 weeks to read the book. I just need to find a copy because it's only at that library and it's already checked out. So I need to find a copy, maybe like an ebook. But I'm gonna read that book. That sounds freaking awesome. I cannot wait to do that. Ugh, that sounds like the coolest book club ever. That's kind of my one like big exception, but 2 other things that kind of might be an exception. Number 1, I have Waiting for the Barbarians on my TBR. This is more of a stretch goal for me, so I doubt I'll have time to read this, honestly, especially now that I have that other book added on. This is technically not a Black author, not a Black main character, but we have a South African author who is writing basically like a metaphor for apartheid and like the impacts of colonization and stuff like that. So I figured this was relevant. Again, he's South African, has firsthand experience. He is white, but has firsthand experience with apartheid. And this is supposed to be a pretty big like classic from the 80s. I might get to it, if not, no big deal, but it is pretty short, so it could be an easy read this month. But I don't know. I got other things to get to first. Another thing that might be kind of a little off. I meant to read this in January. I just never got around to it for some reason. I don't know why. But I am wanting to reread The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which I actually read in my junior year English class. I don't really remember it too much, but I'm wanting to reread this because one of my students the other day was reading James by Percival Everett, which is the kind of retelling of Huckleberry Finn from the point of view of, I believe his name is Jim, from the point of view of Jim, who I guess changes his name. I don't remember the book at all. I don't know if that happens in Huckleberry Finn or what. Yeah, so one of my students was reading this, recommended it to me. I'm very excited to read it. It is obviously very critically acclaimed. I think it was like the Barnes & Noble Book of the Year that it came out, which was 24, maybe? So really excited to read this, heard great things about it. Want to reread this first, though. Another book that's kind of at the bottom of my priority, this is Minor Black Figures by Brandon Taylor. This is a contemporary fiction, so again, that's kind of why it's at the bottom of my list, but it sounds interesting because it's about a black artist who is navigating the art world as a black artist. It sounds interesting, but again, I'm not the biggest contemporary fiction person, so this might be one of the last things I get to if I do get to it. I don't know. A couple other books that I'm borrowing from the library as audiobooks that I intend to read this month. The first book is How to Dodge a Cannonball by Denner Dale, I want to say is his name. I've heard that compared a lot to Colson Whitehead. The reviews were really good for it before it was released last year, and I actually like had it checked out from my library last year. I just never got around to reading it. But the reviews have dropped significantly upon release. It's got like a 3.2 stars now on Goodreads. So I don't know, but I still want to give it a try. I think it's about a black soldier in the Civil War. It's supposed to be more of a funny read, hence why it's called How to Dodge a Cannonball. But I don't know. So it's been compared a lot to Colson Whitehead, who I haven't read, but I'm anticipating reading soon. Hint, hint. Spoiler alert for this video. Another book that I intend to read from my library that I haven't checked out yet is Passing by Nella Larson. I'm going to be reading this as audiobook as well, I think. But this is a short novella about a black woman who is able to pass as a white woman. I believe she's biracial. I don't remember. But it's supposed to be really awesome. It's a classic. I'm going to read it. And it's really short. So, yeah. And the last book that I anticipate checking out from my library this month is called Wake, a history of women's led slave revolts, I believe. And this is a partial graphic novel, partial novel about women-led slave revolts. I am waiting till the end of the month to read this. If I don't get to this month, that's okay, because next month is Women's History Month and I will still read it for Women's History Month because it's about women-led slave revolts. But it sounds really awesome, and it's partially a graphic novel, so it should be really readable as well, considering how many books are on my TBR this month. 8 books was a lot for me. I don't know who I think I am gonna be reading 8 books in February, a shorter month. I don't know. Whatever. Last 2 books on my physical TBR, or these are the only books. Okay, these are the 4 books from my physical TBR that I have for the month. All the others are from the library, which is not good because my goal has been to read my physical TBR this year. But that's okay. I'm not buying new books. I'm just borrowing them from the library, which is good, and you should do that. The last 2 books I'm reading are from my physical TBR. This is Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. believe we're following an escaped slave on the Underground Railroad, but I have heard so much about Colson Whitehead. He has a few books. This was the one that most piqued my interest, and he's supposed to be just a phenomenal, witty, humorous, yet poignant author, who mostly focuses on, I believe, like Jim Crow era, Civil War era kind of stuff. But I don't know, I haven't read anything from him yet, but I am very excited to. Last book, again, kind of lower on the priority for me. This is Just Action by Richard Rothstein. In 2023, I read, what was the other one? Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. This is kind of the companion novel to it. The Color of Law talks about the actual history of segregation and housing and stuff in America. This is supposed to be kind of a guide on how to actually fight against that. This is lower on my priority because I would actually like to reread The Color of Law and kind of annotate, take notes on it before revisiting it and going into this. So that's kind of why this is lower for me, because that would require another reread, and I just don't know if I'll have time to get to that. The Color of Law was a 5-star read for me. It was so transformative, so eye-opening, and really gave me a lot of direction when I read it as to kind of what I wanted to do with my career and what I was studying and all that stuff. So really excited to pick this up, but it might have to wait until I can find time to reread The Color of Law. So yeah, here is all of the books that I hope to read in the month of February. Well, missing a few that I'm gonna get from my library later, and audiobooks, but I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be a great month. Thanks so much for joining me on a recap and a preview of what I'm going to be reading and have been reading this start of 2026. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you have a phenomenal day, and thanks for visiting the circus.